Joseph Fiennes, and you're watching I Stand TV.
Congratulations on the premiere. I watched the movie and I absolutely loved it.
Oh, good.
I loved your performance. I told one of the producers I love to see kind of the unraveling and almost the deconstruction of your character, trying to figure out this mystery that was the resurrection. So, just a few questions. Can you tell me what this is about and what you want audiences to take away from this movie?
Well, as you've said, it's about the unraveling of a condition. That's brilliantly put. It's a man who's conditioned in Roman military warfare. He's a tribune of high standing. He's the right-hand man of Pontius Pilate. He's crucifying people and putting down insurrections. And I love that here's a man that thinks he's in control. He's charged by Pilate to go and find the body of Christ because he knows that the Christ followers will take the body and proclaim it resurrected as a hoax. So I love the energy and the ticking clock to the movie. But I think the crux of it, if you're a believer, it's continuing the conversation of faith and what that means to you. And if you're a non-believer, I think you can understand the value of redemption and forgiveness. You don't have to be religious to understand that. So there are huge takeaways for audiences.
Right. And your process for playing this historical figure, you said it's a historical fictional figure. So what was your process of getting into him? How did you prepare for that?
Well, I prepared by going off to Rome and enrolling in gladiator school and understanding truly what it might have been like to be instilled and imbued with Roman warfare of that time. So I wanted to build up his conditioning in a certain way in order to have it unraveled and undone when he is confronted by Mary Magdalene and the followers of Christ.
Right. So going back from film and theater, what attracted you to this role that you couldn't turn it down, that you wanted to go back to film for this role in this movie?
There were a lot of components. Firstly, our director, Kevin Reynolds, veteran director of cinema. Secondly, a story that arrested me since I was a young kid. And thirdly, because the story is told in such a unique way. When I read it, I didn't think, the title was different. It was called Clavius. And I didn't think I was reading a story about the resurrection because it was from a different pair of eyes and also it had a sense of the detective noir about it. So it didn't come across immediately as a Bible story. And in many ways, that was refreshing.
Mm-hmm. You said you went to gladiator school. What was the hardest part of that? How long did you spend there and what was the hardest part of that?
I spent at gladiator school in Rome about a week and a little bit shorter than a week. And the hardest thing was just getting knocked and bruised and cut because it's I hadn't understood just quite how brutal it was and how these guys thought like a machine. They were surgical and economical, but it's kind of like going into a boxing ring. You know, if you don't have your guard up, you get hit. So you learn pretty quick how to kind of how to sort of enter the war zone without getting brutalized.
So because your character starts this methodical gladiator soldier, and then it, like we said before, it kind of unravels. How do you do that process when you're doing those scenes, especially that scene when you see Jesus for the first time since he's risen? It stands out to me because you slide down. So what's going through your mind as to how to portray what's going through his mind when that happens?
It's a good question. It's a tough one. I think as actors, what you're trying to do is you're working just as hard off camera as on camera. So you're trying to preserve the energy and tension and chemistry. So when you get in front of the camera, it works, and the camera can capture that. And Cliff and I both worked in our own ways to ensure that there was a level of intensity towards that first meeting. And I think you get it for one or two takes, and you hope that the camera captures something.
When you do the physical soldier type things, is that fun for you? Do you like the physicality of the movie?
Yeah, I'm a big kid at heart. I'm a young boy that can't wait to ride horses and play with gladiuses and get kitted out in Roman armor. So that's a big component. But also all of that journey was really about making the character, building him in one form of conditioning, so that conditioning gets challenged and unraveled.
And do you go on a journey as well as your character? Your character goes through this arc. Do you take that home ever in such an intense role, an intense film like this? Does that go home with you at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think in many ways every character, if they're kind of interesting and have value, they stay with you in some way, shape or form. And I think, if anything, if I was to take anything away from this experience, it might be that the conversation of faith and what that means to me has percolated a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. And did it question, or did it, I'll go on that. Did you have more conversations about why you believe what you believe, or how you see this story differently now it's told through a different lens?
I guess what I like about the character is that he's kind of like an everyman, and we get to pin all our fluctuations, if you want, about faith. And maybe some people are very fixed and they have a rock solid faith, and there's some people are just beginning to understand what that is. But I think the journey that the character goes on is interesting, and I think it might work for audiences to be able to reconcile their thoughts through him, and I know I did. And he's a character who's been handed the resurrection firsthand. He witnesses it firsthand. Yet there's a seed of doubt that he can't quite compute what he's seen. And I think for all of us, you could take away and interpret it in many ways. For all of us, possibly, or certainly for me, that there's a sense that I have this intellectual noise in my head, and it's all about sort of tuning that out and tuning into a greater consciousness.
Thank you so much. Congratulations.